editor who produce a learning platform called DB Primary. Being teachers yourselves, I know that you're going to, go on the same lines as myself. Every single year there is always a group of children that are reluctant readers, reluctant writers. For me, I had it every single year for 6 years. There was one group of children that were, sorry my leg is shaking, that were really, really reluctant in reading. They would rather go home, play Club Penguin on the internet or whatever the latest craze is nowadays. So I've created a project using, obviously, my skills with DB Primary. It's called the Dex and Bex Adventures, and it's downloadable from our website, but obviously, you can adapt it to your own teaching. And it's basically based on two characters called Dex and Bex, and they have to go through. It's just using PowerPoint. That's all I've done. So it's really, really simple. Dex and Bex are training to become private investigators. So the first episode goes through introduction for the children, because obviously they don't know who the characters are. They're trying to graduate from the school of private investigators. Along the way, they get emails, faxes, whatever it is, from their clients who are wanting help, and their clients are children in the classes. Obviously, the children have their specific areas that they're interested in. For example, Rebecca, whose nickname is Bex, likes history, literacy, science and religious studies. So you can see, obviously, a pattern that's coming through already. It's an interactive digitext for the children, so it's trying to include those children that are reluctant readers, that would rather go home and use the internet to play Club Penguin or whatever it is, and getting them to use the computer. It's not just a digitext, it's also a working, it's something that they can use to complete a piece of work. This particular episode looks at the invaders and settlers for year 3. And like I said, you can adapt it to any year group, to any subject that you want. And the first client, it gives you a variety of endings. In this particular episode, there's only 2 endings. They either accept the help from the client, or they want to help the client, or they don't. And if they don't, PowerPoint shuts down. It's that simple. It just basically says, okay, goodbye. If they don't want to help, there's no point in forcing the children to help it. But going on to obviously helping them, because we're being positive, the characters do come into it. They do come into it a lot, and they are helping the children throughout the tasks. So, for example, the first one, going to the Romans, Celts, Vikings and Saxons. The Romans and Celts, basically the children have to become experts in reading a timeline. So it's going along, obviously, the national curriculum side of things. They've got, obviously, their little gadgets. When there's something flashing on screen, that tells them that they can't click anywhere else apart from that, what's flashing. So again, using PowerPoint was really, really simple. Children read through it. It can be used as a teaching-led activity, or there is a book version that we are in the process of creating in PDF, which allows the children to read it themselves at their own leisure. On the Vikings section, they have to become fluent in understanding the Viking runes. So they have a sentence in Viking runes that they have to decode, and that gives them their next activity. So these are the Viking runes, and it basically says you have to achieve 500 points on the Viking quest. So I'm sure you've all seen the Viking quest on the BBC website, where you can go play a little game, have to pretend to be a Viking warrior and build a boat, raid a monastery and come and get back safely without destroying the boat. To achieve the 500 points, that's what the children have to do in order to move on into the next part of the story. The Saxons part of the story allows the children to become archaeologists. So we've actually got a piece of material, a piece of software where we can, which I would use but I can't get on the internet, allows the children to dig through different layers of ground, finding Saxon artefacts, allowing them to obviously stop this motorway from being built. It's a bit similar to one of the BBC websites that we've got links to. I was very passionate about this project because, for me as a teacher, creating something like this did get those. It didn't get 100% of those children, but it got 90% of those children, of those reluctant readers, of those reluctant writers, engaged in the lesson, back into reading, and that was what my objective was for this particular thing. Just got one more thing to show you. At the end of the assignment, or at the end of the project, the children, when it loads, do get a certificate. So I thought it was going to be the puppet being thrown at me then. They do get a little certificate to say, well done, you know, you've completed this. So it's just a bit of fun for the children to engage them. And all this was through PowerPoint, and it's really that simple. That's it. Thank you.